everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings, the card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride. And today we will be talking about a new ally that's just been released from the Fire and the Night adventure pack, who is a spirit ally that costs 0, has 0 willpower, 0 attack, 0 defense, and 1 hit point. It is Galion, a Silvan who cannot attack or defend, but after Galion enters play, he gets +1 willpower until the end of the round. So, David, what do you think of this 0 cost, 0 attribute ally?
That's really funny that we bring him up. First of all, I like the way you changed I'm just along for the ride. You kind of made it a little bit. It made me laugh again, so that's good. But before we get into talking about Galion, I just would like to tell the listeners that certain cards only make sense to go in certain decks. And so as Grant and I have kind of grown Card Talk and we've talked about where we want to go with it, we've decided to kind of focus on, sometimes to focus on cards that only go into certain decks. We kind of learned our lesson with Boots from Erebor, where you know, that card is a good card maybe for Dwarf and Hobbit decks, but it has no use in any other deck. So what we're doing now is we're really focusing for this series on like the Slippery Silvans, the Silvans that go in and out of play. And I think Galion really fits into that deck type really well for a lot of reasons. First of all, he's a 0 cost ally that is in Sphere for this particular deck type. It's a spirit 0 cost ally, and that 0 cost is amazing because you can continually get 2 questing out of this guy, because Galion gets +1 willpower when he comes into play. With Celeborn's ability, that's 2 willpower that he has for 0 cost, and he can't do anything else other than quest. The bummer is he's unique, so you can only have 1 of him in your deck. So for that reason, there's only 2 in the deck that we built here that we have, but it feeds that engine so much because he's only good for like 1 round. That ability that comes into play, once you use him to quest, you can feed tree people, you can feed faint voices, you can feed the Elven King, like any of those things that pull stuff back into your hand so that you can get those abilities, and then it allows you to repay for him, which is 0, and bring him back out again. So it's one of those like loops that just keeps giving and giving. And there's times that maybe you don't want to bring Galion back into your hand, and it's fine. He can just sit on the board and not do anything. Maybe you want to bring a Nath guy back in your hand for whatever reason, or maybe the Galadrim Minstrel, or the Weaver or something. Like you have some sort of thing that you want to keep doing. But what I do know is that Galion is an awesome card to have in this deck. What do you think?
So Galion's a good ally. I mean, he fits the deck so well, being able to bounce in and out. And with Celeborn, that's 2 willpower for 0 cost on the turn it enters play. And with Galadriel, that character does not exhaust, so it's not susceptible to exhausting that damage that deals exhaust characters. So that means it's less likely to be destroyed. So I like it. I love the fact that he's portrayed to be really drunk there in the card art. Because if I remember rightly, what they're referring to is the when Bilbo goes to free the hobbits from Brandwell Palace, it's one of the elves that's down in this storeroom where all the barrels are, and they're all him and the guard are just making merry and end up passing out because of the liquor. So he does what he's set out to do, and with all the effects to bring him back to your hand, you don't have to worry so much about just not having them, like having them on the field, and how you just recur them back and back. So those are my thoughts on Galion.
And I think that the important thing here is that, for 0 cost to be able to feed tree people is amazing in this deck, because then you can bring out something like Legolas, or you can bring out Rumil or Haldir, some of those higher cost allies, or you can even bring in allies that aren't in Sphere. So you can bring out the Galadon Archer, or something, or you could bring out the Greenwood Archer. There's ways to use the fact that it's 0 cost, is just really really beneficial for this sort of deck. I don't think there would be any reason to bring him out using Thranduil's ability, though. Like, I've never once done that unless you're gonna feed tree people right afterwards. But typically, by the time you're willing to do that, there's you have a bajillion allies out anyways. I also, as much as I love him in this deck, I don't know if he makes sense in any other deck, because...
No, I don't think so, because of the fact that he's otherwise pretty much useless.
Yeah, he's pretty squishy, and you're only getting +1 for 1 round. You can pay 2 and put Favor of the Lady in that same sphere and get +1 for the rest of the game, as an attachment or something. So I don't think that he really makes a lot of sense in terms of decks other than this one. Maybe, though. But not. But he's super special in this deck, that's for sure.
So I think we should just get on and ring him.
Should we ring this guy?
Yeah, well, he's already had too much beer, so I think. Well, actually, technically, it's wine, but I think
it's probably like mead or something like that, right? Like Elven wine or whatever. But just to let the audience know, when Grant and I decided to do this, we were going to rate the card in 2 ways. We were going to ring them, first of all, against the whole card pool, and then we were going to ring the card based on its usage in the deck. So we have 2 ring ratings for these cards. So, Grant, if you were going to ring this guy from 1 to 10, how would you ring him?
On a whole, is part of the entire card pool, I'd ring him as a 9.
I agree.
Outside of that, he's got pretty much no use other than in a Sylvan deck. And in this Sylvan deck, that 1 cost, that 0 cost for that 2 willpower, that you can feed tree people, Fiend Voices, the Elven King if you want some readying, it makes perfect sense, so I'm going to give him 2 rating in this deck.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree with... I was going to say, I agree with the 9. There's got to be some way to use him outside of the deck, outside of the Slippery Silvan deck, that makes sense, where you have to... In the fact that he's 0 cost makes him... It kind of can make him an auto-include in a lot of those spirit decks that... Or maybe not, I don't know. Like, I always feel like 0 cost means no slot in your deck. As long as you're not running 100 0 cost cards, I feel like... Because a 0 cost card you can just bring out into play, and it doesn't really change anything. That said, within the spirit, within this deck, that 0 cost spirit ally is so important, because there's not any spirit allies in this deck except for the Galadrim Weaver. And so to have another ally in spirit really helps, and then to be able to feed, to potentially bring out a 4 cost ally for 0, because Tree People is 0. It's you can't beat that. So it's just a really good way to keep feeding the machine that this deck kind of runs on. So I would rank him probably a 3, not a 2, but definitely a 3.
Okay, so join us next time.
Just join us next time. Yep.
Exactly. They all know what they're getting these days.
Right. As we talk about more cards from the card game. I don't know, whatever. And if you're interested in finding this or any of our back episodes of Card Talk, feel free to search YouTube where you can find our flagship video episodes with the username Card Talk 2018. Or you can search the RSS feed, cardtalk2018.libsyn.org, for our extended audio versions of our podcast. Or you can find us on Facebook at Card Talk 2018. And if you have any questions for Grant or myself or for both of us, feel free to email us at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.